Welcome to the 700 Club. Israel launched multiple strikes on Iran's nuclear program. The unprecedented operation attacked Iran's nuclear facilities, also took out key Iranian leaders.
Now Israel is bracing for the possibility of weeks of retaliation from Iran. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Called Operation Rising Lion, Israeli warplanes attacked strategic sites throughout Iran and in Tehran itself. Just after the attack began, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation and the world.
This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons.
He warned Iran was on the verge of those nuclear weapons.
In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
President Trump had given Iran 2 months, 60 days to negotiate an end to its nuclear program. That deadline passed Thursday, and Israel attacked on day 61. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the U.S. is not taking part directly in the attack. Trump posting on Truth Social, "We remain committed to a diplomatic resolution to the Iran nuclear issue," adding that Iran first must completely give up hopes of obtaining a nuclear weapon. The IDF announced its warplanes hit targets throughout Iran. Online videos out of Iran showed the aftermath of the explosions at nuclear sites like Natanz, Isfahan, and others. The IDF also announced it eliminated senior Iranian leaders, including Armed Forces Commander Mohammad Bagheri, Revolutionary Guard Commander Hussein Salami, and Air Defense Commander Ghulam Ali Rashid. The IDF and Mossad also eliminated several key nuclear scientists. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei warned that Israel would face severe punishment for the strikes, and Iran launched hundreds of drones in retaliation. But the IDF announced most of them were destroyed. Iranian-born global terrorism expert Dr. Amir Hamidi told CBN News what he's hearing from inside Iran.
Many Iranians, especially major cities, may be silent in public, but privately there is a sense of quiet relief. A growing portion of society blames the regime for dragging Iran toward war and international isolations through secrecy of nuclear ambitions.
Hamidi said many Iranians hope this could be the beginning of the end of the regime.
They're saying you are out of time. Your weapons are compromised. Your secrets are exposed, and your collapse has begun. The time is ticking, and see what happens. Everybody's hoping which it will be end of this nightmare and will be end of this tyranny of the Islamic Republic.
On Thursday, before Operation Rising Lion began, Prime Minister Netanyahu prayed at the Kotel and placed a note in the Western Wall. It read from Numbers chapter 23, "He shall rise like a lion and lift himself like a lioness." Netanyahu ended his message quoting Moses.
Over 3,000 years ago, Moses gave the people of Israel a message that has steeled their resolve ever since. Be strong and courageous, he said. Today, our strong and courageous soldiers and people stand together to defend ourselves against those who seek our destruction. And by defending ourselves, we defend many others, and we roll back a murderous tyranny.
Well, with us now, joining us now, is Israeli Ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon. Ambassador, welcome back to the 700 Club.
Thank you for having me again.
Let's talk about the UN. Are you anticipating any kind of UN response today or in the coming days?
Absolutely. We expect to have a Security Council special session. Probably it will be today in the afternoon, 3 p.m. New York time. And we're going to hear, many countries condemning Israel again. And I will ask them, Gordon, I will ask them, What have you done in the last decades about Iran, about the threats coming from Iran? Words will not stop Iran. Our actions, that's what will stop them.
I do find it curious that the UN would condemn Israel and not condemn what Iran has clearly done for decades. They're the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. And it just seems amazing to me that you would be condemned. The goal seems to be not just taking out the nuclear facilities, but actually facilitating removing the government of Iran. Prime Minister Netanyahu said that. Do you have any comment on that? What's the sort of the day after plan?
Well, we know that the people in Iran are suffering, and we have nothing against them. On the contrary, we know that they are suffering under the regime. They are very poor, miserable. All the funds are going to the proxies to provide support to radical elements in the Middle East instead of building infrastructure in Iran. But the goals of the operation are to attack the nuclear facilities and the ballistic missile infrastructure. And that's a very important point, Gordon, because we all speak about the nuclear capabilities. But Iran tried to build an industry of ballistic missiles and to get to the numbers of the US and Russia in terms of the quantity and the quality of those ballistic missiles.
Well, it seems to me that there was definitely a nuclear threat, but just the state itself, the government itself was an existential threat to Israel. They kept claiming that they wanted to wipe Israel off the map. Are you able to comment at all about the operational side of this? There are published reports that Mossad actually had weapons within Iran that were used last night.
Well, first, Gordon, you just need to look at the map and to realize how complicated the operation is. It takes hours for our pilots to get there, refueling capabilities, and we had more than 200 aircrafts targeting multiple targets in Iran, and Iran is a big country, so it is a very sophisticated task and challenge. But we are determined. We are determined to finish the job, not to allow Iran to have those capabilities. We know it's going to be hard. We know that they will retaliate. We prepared the people in Israel, the home front, to be ready for that. But we are willing to pay that price in order that the future generations can prevail and live in Israel.
How long do you expect this operation to last? It seems like there are multiple targets, hardened targets. Iran definitely split up its operations to create nuclear weapons and create ballistic weapons. How many days or how many weeks should we expect?
Well, it definitely is not going to be a short one. I cannot give you an exact date, but I think it will require days, even more. And also it depends on the response coming from Iran. So it's too early to call. But when we took that decision, we realized that it's going to be painful, it's going to be long, but after October 7th, we have learned the lessons. It's better for us to take a preemptive attack and not to wait for Iran to fulfill their threats.
Any chance of this becoming a wider conflict, other nations in the Middle East, and specifically Turkey, getting involved?
Well, I don't think we have any intentions to have a wider conflict. Probably Iran will try to get the proxies more involved. Many of them are weakened now, but they still have proxies in the region, and probably they will try to get them involved as well.
Any support for Iranians who would want to come in to establish a new government? Is that part of the plan?
Well, that's not for us to decide. I think it's for the Iranian people to decide about their future. We took those steps in order to secure our safety. And I think it's for the Iranian people inside Iran, outside of Iran, to take control over their future. And as I said earlier, we know they suffer. We have the intelligence. We know what's happening there. So I hope they will have better leadership soon.
Let's talk about U.S. interests in the region. The president evacuated non-essential personnel in advance of this attack. Do you anticipate the Iranians going after U.S. assets in the region?
Well, we saw the threats coming from Tehran against the U.S., against allies of the U.S. in the region. You know, I don't know what they will decide to do, but I can tell you that in terms of attacking Israel, you know, we're on high alert. We prepared for that, and we told the population to be ready that in the next few days it's going to be very intense in Israel.
How intense do you think it will be? Does Iran now have the capability of still launching ballistic missiles or drone attacks against Israel?
Absolutely. You know, they built a very impressive capability of ballistic missiles, and that's what they try to do, to create a number that you cannot stop. So today we still have, you know, good defense system, a few layers of defense, but still, you know, you cannot stop every projectile that they are sending into Israel. So far, we were very successful, and I hope that we'll be able to continue to block most of the ballistic missiles and drones that they are sending to us.
It's my view that the world should be thanking Israel for this, that a nuclear-armed Iran would be terrifying, that not just Tel Aviv at risk, Europe at risk, but I even think with their ballistic missile capability that they would launch attacks against the United States. So whether the world thanks you or not, I do, and I hope that Christians around the world understand just how important this action is. So we stand with Israel, we stand with you, and may you be strong and courageous in this battle.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you for your prayers, for your support. You know, we are in the front line, and as you said, we are fighting this war for the entire free civilizations.
Well, Ambassador Danon, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, let's go now to Jerusalem, where Chris Mitchell is standing by with a report of what's it like on the ground there. Chris, we were anticipating with sirens and everything through the night here in the U.S. that there would be some kind of massive retaliation, and so far that doesn't seem to be the case. What's it like on the ground in Jerusalem?
Well, it started early this morning, Gordon. I was awoken about 4:30 in the morning. Others a little earlier, about 3 o'clock, when the news of the attack happened. There were sirens here telling people to seek safety. But right now, they've kind of called those sirens off for the time being. A lot of people were going to the grocery stores and preparing. But there were about 100 drones apparently shot by Iran, but most of them have been eliminated even before they got to the Israeli border. So right now, it's quiet. We know that Iran tried twice last year, sending about 300 projectiles each time. Most of them were shot down. So at least right now, Gordon, things are fairly quiet here in Jerusalem.
Are the bans on public gatherings still in place? Or is, you know, I would assume people are not going to work and you know, sheltering in place or using bomb shelters?
Well, no one went to work today officially, and then the schools were obviously closed as well. But this has been something that people have been preparing for a long time. You know, Gordon, this whole nuclear program by Iran started back in August of 2002. And so we've been reporting on this for more than 20 years. You can remember the Stuxnet back around 2010 and 2012, damaging many of the centrifuges, and then the 2015 JCPOA 10 years ago. That didn't stop Iran. And now we see on 2023, this is really a watershed moment, Gordon, I think, not only for personally Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been warning about Iran's nuclear program for most of his adult life, but I think also for Israel, the Middle East. This is really a watershed moment in world history to actually take care of this major existential threat to the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
Well, in your opinion, why has the world been so quiet on this? It just seems to be amazing to me that it's like the Iranians have been slow rolling the peace process for that 20-year period, all in an attempt to change the game forever by acquiring a nuclear weapon. And particularly in the current negotiations, where you have the President of the United States saying you have to come to peace. There can be no world where Iran has a nuclear weapon. In the same time, they're saying, well, we'll negotiate on this. They're buying the centrifuges that will ultimately give them that weapon. It just seems to be amazing to me that people aren't pounding the table, that the Iranians are lying in the negotiations and have no intent of giving up their nuclear ambition. Why do you think that is? Well, it seems like there's a willful blindness to it.
Well, or slumber. It's as if the West was slumbering while Iran was on its way to a nuclear weapon. While Europe slept, I think is the title that comes to mind before World War II, and people didn't wake up to Adolf Hitler and his rise to power. Winston Churchill was the leader at that time that really was crying out in the wilderness, warning about that. And Benjamin Netanyahu has been crying out in the wilderness for many years, and yet much of the West really wasn't heeding his warnings. But now I think, just as it happened in 1981, when Israel attacked the Osirak reactor by Saddam Hussein, they condemned Israel at the time, but thanked Israel later when they realized what would have happened if Saddam Hussein had a nuclear weapon. Same thing in 2007. They took out a nuclear reactor by Bashar Assad. So I think Israel, as you said, I think the world owes Israel thanks for taking care of this. And it's an ongoing operation, Gordon. It will take days. These attacks are going on as we speak. And talking to some Israeli analysts about this, this was an epic attack. It was incredible intelligence, precise intelligence, extraordinary coordination and execution on the ground, in the air. You mentioned the Mossad agents on the ground. They had smuggled these weapons in weeks or maybe if not months before the operation. We're talking about sorties going 900 or 1,000 miles. This was just a historic moment in military history and certainly the history of the Middle East.
For the Mossad agents within Iran, what were their principal targets? Was it we want to take out the leadership on the military, or was it we want to take out the air defense systems, or was it both?
I think it was both. I mean, they were prepositioned to target air defenses for sure, but then they eliminated a host of Iranian senior officials. We mentioned 3 in our report, but there was a whole list of senior officials both in the Iranian army and the IRGC that were eliminated. The entire command of the Iranian army and the Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is just unprecedented. It reminds some people of what happened with Hezbollah and the elimination of Hassan Nasrallah. But this is on like a much bigger scale than those beepers. This is really amazing what they've did. So the Mossad was on the ground. They actually just recently, in the last few minutes, released footage of Mossad agents inside Iran. That's unprecedented, but that's what they were doing on the ground. The air defenses, and certainly many of these senior leaders who were actually in bed at home, many of them, and some of these missiles went into just specific rooms and buildings. Unprecedented intelligence.
Well, it's definitely on a level much higher than the beepers, and they actually revealed that when they went after a Hamas leader in sort of the same kind of attack, right to the bedroom, and so I think the Iranians should have known that they had the capability. It just they seem to be blind to it too. Let's turn to the U.S. reaction, and first we have the Secretary of State saying the U.S. is not participating in the attack, but will participate in the defense of Israel. And then you have the president coming out and saying he still believes in the peace process. And he's still looking for Iran to come to the negotiations this weekend and cut a deal where they'll agree not to develop a weapon. What's the reaction to either event in Jerusalem?
Well, I think I think people are taking a little bit tongue-in-cheek that President Trump is saying that they'll come to the negotiating table on Sunday. I think, actually mentioned in one of his tweets that it said that some of these leaders won't be around to actually come to the table. So I think that's one reaction. And, I think President Trump wanted to make sure that he did what he had to do for diplomacy to make sure before any action was taken. And as Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, they didn't directly participate, but they may have indirectly participated. We saw video of actually refueling over Syria that may have been a U.S. tanker that was able to refuel many of these Israeli jets that traveled 1,000 miles or more to go ahead and hit these targets. So it seems like there was indirect participation by the United States, but I think that gives perhaps the United States a little bit of diplomatic cover. We didn't directly intervene, but I would imagine there was a lot of coordination going on. And there was also, it seemed, Gordon, before this all happened, a bit of disinformation happening. People didn't know what President Trump was really wanting to do. Was there going to be a deal? Was there no deal? But I think there was, in my view, probably a lot of coordination going on behind the scenes with the United States and Israel.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for the report. I went to bed last night very concerned for your personal safety and for the safety of everyone with the News Bureau, CBN Israel. Our prayers are with you in the coming days, the coming weeks. So stay safe, and thanks so much for the analysis and being a watchman on the wall right there in the front lines. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon.
In today's turbulent times, we need the guidance of the Holy Spirit more than ever.
CBN presents Walking in the Spirit.
The Bible is very specific that we're to meditate on His Word day and night. And the purpose of that is to transform your thinking. So you're no longer thinking the human way, the worldly way. You're thinking in accordance with Scripture. And when you do that, you're walking in the power of God.
Call now or go to CBN.com.
Welcome back to the 700 Club for more of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. The protest over President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration could step up even more this weekend as the president gets a victory for now in the legal battle over his use of the National Guard in California. CBN's Brody Carter has this story.
Tensions in Los Angeles have remained high since protests started after the raids began June 6. Now, major protests in 21 states and 37 cities have seen hundreds of arrests.
We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city.
Inside a West Los Angeles federal building, another kind of clash at a Homeland Security press conference.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary.
After California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla demanded to speak with Secretary Kristi Noem, he was forcibly escorted out. Agents tackled him to the ground and handcuffed him in the hallway. Officials said Padilla was not wearing a security pin and didn't identify himself.
You know what? I don't even know the senator. He did not request a meeting with me or to speak with me.
And on Capitol Hill.
Well, some interesting theatrics today.
Lawmakers on both sides clashing as Democratic governors testified Thursday about their sanctuary policies for illegal immigrants and the president's moves to deport them.
Because if we just roll this clock on the wall back 75 years, we'd be looking at a time in Nazi Germany where people ran around with signs like this new ICE sign that says, report all foreign invaders to ICE.
You are not advocating on behalf of these victims. You are shielding illegals. Even in your opening statement, you prioritize putting illegals first.
Now a legal back and forth is underway after a federal judge last night ruled the deployment of National Guardsmen to California was illegal and violates the 10th Amendment. A federal appeals court put that ruling on hold, so for now, the National Guard will stay under federal control in California. The appeals court has scheduled a hearing for next Tuesday to review the ruling on President Trump's National Guard deployment in California. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thousands of protesters are expected to show up in the nation's capital this week for the No Kings demonstration. It comes as a patriotic military parade is planned for Saturday to celebrate the Army's 250th anniversary. CBN senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright has a look at the preparations for the parade.
As America's oldest military organization, the Army turns 250 this year. Tanks and other Army equipment have arrived in the nation's capital by train to take part in the celebration. The military parade will feature hundreds of military vehicles and aircraft, along with thousands of marching soldiers going by the Lincoln Memorial and down Constitution Avenue.
We're celebrating the Army on Flag Day, and it's not my birthday. It is my birthday, but I'm not celebrating my birthday. I'm celebrating Flag Day. It happens to be the same day, so I take a little heat, but Flag Day is the appropriate date, and we're celebrating 250 years of the Army, a great service. And remember, you know, think of it, we won so much. We won World War I, World War II, so much else, and then we became politically correct.
Designated a national special security event, fencing has been placed along the perimeter of the White House as the Secret Service, FBI, and D.C. police work together to ensure the safety of those attending.
On the ground, we're taking proactive steps to reinforce the area. You will see 18.5 miles of anti-scale fencing, 17 miles of bike rack, concrete barriers, 175 magnetometers, and officers from federal, state, and local agencies standing post. You may also notice multiple drones operating in the area. These are great tools for law enforcement situational awareness and part of our layered security strategy. Rest assured, all drones will be owned and operated by the Secret Service or our partners, so please do not be alarmed.
Throughout the day, the event will include concerts, fitness competitions, and military equipment displays on the National Mall, followed by a concert and fireworks.
Overall, this is like a big recruiting event, telling the story of the U.S. Army and its rich history, its rich heritage that's existed for 250 years.
While cost estimates for the event run between $25 to $40 million, officials believe the value of showcasing this military history and patriotism will be worth the investment. Kelly Wright, CBN News.
Busy weekend in our nation's capital. Terry, back to you.
Walt and Annie don't believe in coincidences, and their family is living proof. Here is their remarkable story.
I grew up on my parents' 100-acre property, and I refused to stay inside. I loved being in nature. I would just go out there by myself, and I'd have all this time, and I would be talking to God, and we'd have this conversation, and I didn't know that was strange or unusual. I would just pray to him, and then sometimes he would say something to me and speak to me. I was about 10 or 12 years old. Middle of the day, God gives me a very vivid picture of a little kid, and I'm holding her swinging around in my parents' yard, and she's just laughing like crazy. In the picture that I had in my mind, she had dark skin and dark eyes, and God said, "This is going to be your daughter, and her name is going to be Chloe."
Walt and I grew up together. I think he moved to town the year I was born, so we've known each other my whole life. When I was 10, we moved right across the pasture from him, so we grew up together. My whole life, I was like, I think Walt Manus is amazing, and I always thought when I grow up, I want to find someone just like him, who was in my age group. I went to university about 30 minutes from where he was living, and when I went, he just kind of came in and helped get me settled and helped introduce me to a church. And so we just started spending more and more time together, and we were sitting in his car just talking, and we had this conversation about what our dreams and our hopes were for the future. And I said that I felt like God had just made me to be a mom. That's what I wanted. More than anything, I wanted to be a mother. And I said that I had actually a name picked out already that I wanted to name my daughter. And he said, I do too, which I thought was weird because, you know, I didn't think guys did that.
And I was like, well, what's the name? And she said, Chloe.
And he's like, you've got to be kidding me.
You won't believe this. God gave me, when I was 12, that name, Chloe.
So he's telling me this story, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. Like, first of all, I don't have a lot of experience with God speaking to me like that. In the picture, Chloe always had olive skin, so he always thought he would marry a woman with olive skin.
She can't have a brown-eyed child. I didn't know what to do with it.
I think we both knew pretty early on that we were going to get married. It just, I don't know. The best way I can describe it is that Walt felt like home to me. Like, from the very beginning, I felt like, yeah, this is where I belong with this guy. When we first got married, we decided we wanted to wait a little while to have children. We ended up traveling, doing some work with some different missions agencies. We thought it was just going to happen immediately, you know, and so we were like, yeah, let's start our family, let's have children. And, you know, months turned into years, and pretty soon we were 4 years into trying and still nothing.
I had always clung to this promise that God had given me about the daughter, so I didn't know when it was going to happen, but it was starting to get hard to wait.
It was really hard. It was really, I don't know, I think I struggled with questioning God's goodness in that time, because I just felt like it was so mean, you know, like such a mean thing to do. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so there was like a probably 4.5-year period that I would say was really, really hard on us individually, on us in our marriage, and also like the way we were relating with God. Especially for me, I felt like, is God good even when he's not doing things that I would define as good?
All of her friends were having kids, and she had to just wait and put on this cheesy smile, this fake smile, and say, we're happy for you. And every time that we would hear about someone getting pregnant, we would just be devastated because we were thinking, this isn't going to happen for us. We're just fools. We're fools who want kids, and it's never going to happen.
There were tons of people praying for us and with us, people that we didn't even know. Like, people would come to us and say, oh, this Bible study group I'm a part of is praying for you guys, is praying for this situation. And I don't know, that was a really special thing to get to feel like the body of Christ on a larger scale, like standing with you through something.
Annie is like, well, maybe we're supposed to adopt, and I was adamantly against it.
How are you feeling about adoption?
Yeah, I want to speak about adoption. I had this thought of like, I called it a Band-Aid baby. We are struggling, we are hurting, and you know, I didn't want just a fix. I didn't want just some kid. I wanted the kid that we were supposed to have, you know? And God just like, he progressed me from like being adamantly against adoption to be like, you know, I just want the kid that God wants. Maybe it's not supposed to come through biological means. Maybe it's supposed to be through adoption.
So what do you think?
I think that I'm very excited to adopt, but waiting will be hard. I remember one night we were at Walt's sister's house and I was checking my email, and there was an email that came in and it said, it's a girl. I clicked on it and I realized it was from the adoption agency, and they said, we just wanted to let you know that a birth mother has chosen you guys, and yeah, you're gonna be parents. And I was like, I just sat there looking at the email like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this.
Annie gets this email, she's super excited, and I'm just like, I'm gonna wait and see.
She'll be born in late February or early March.
Coming close.
And we're working on her name right now.
We're working on it.
The name Chloe's completely off the table. We've abandoned it.
We had decided, oh, that was just a fluke thing. That was a coincidence that we both liked that name, you know. That was nothing. And so we had even talked about a different name, and the social worker working with us, she says, okay, well, the birth mother would like to meet you before she has the baby. And we were like, yes, we want to meet her. Sounds great. And so we took a trip up to Wichita.
Today's the big day, huh?
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
We're going to meet Alice for the first time.
You nervous?
Oh, yeah. A little bit. We went to the house where she was living and we knocked on the door and...
She opens the door and it looks like a grown-up version of this little girl in my head that was from the past. And I was like, oh my goodness, what in the world, you know? And so in a second, in my head, the name was back on the table.
We went up to this room and sat and talked for, I don't know, 3 hours or so.
The social worker says, now let's talk about a name. Have you thought of a name?
She said, yeah, well, ever since I got pregnant, even before I knew it was a girl, I've been calling this baby Chloe.
We were just floored.
And both Walt and I mean, I don't even remember what we did exactly. I just know that I was ugly crying.
We were weeping and she was like, oh, you hate the name. And we're like, oh my goodness, no, we love the name. God has spoken, he's told us this name.
It just dawned on me before I ever even knew you guys existed or anything. Just was like, I want to name, you know, this little girl Chloe, and I didn't know if you guys would like it or stick with it or anything like that. I just kind of figured maybe you'd have something else, but so that's why, like, when I threw it out there, I was just kind of like, I've been calling her Chloe. And then you guys, oh, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, it's my name.
All those doubts about having the Band-Aid baby were just completely out of the window, and it felt like I just had full body shivers. It was like the Holy Spirit is just right there.
This is so much a God thing that's going on right now. You've been planned for a long time. Before you were even conceived, we knew your name. And I think we know what you're gonna look like. I don't know, but we'll see. I love you. We look forward to seeing you.
This surreal presence of God was just all around us, and I felt him saying to me, see how much I love you? Do you see this? Like, do you see what I've done? Like, I've been writing this story. You had no idea. I've been writing this story for years, since Walt was a kid.
Day of.
Yeah.
What were you about to do?
Go to the hospital. I can't find your toothbrush holder.
Oh no, are you nervous?
A little bit. Yeah, I was just crazy nervous that morning. Like, I remember going to the hospital and then all of a sudden it was happening. All of a sudden the doctor came in and was like, okay, she's ready and you're gonna have a baby now. And I don't know, and there was just all this movement and bustling around, and then Chloe was there. Like, I was looking at this baby, my baby. I was just looking at her all of a sudden, like she wasn't there and then she was there.
Big girl, how you doing, Annie?
I'm good, I'm really good.
Yeah.
So many years of anticipating her as a child. She's here, you know? She's been a part of my life for so long and she's finally here.
I remember just holding her and looking at her face and being like, I'm your mom, I'm your mom. And I just sounded so weird to say those words.
There was no mistake. I am the father of this child, just like God had always planned it to be. And I'm completely owning it. Like, on cloud nine, just amazed at what God has done.
It was like he was whispering to me in that moment, like, I've been here this whole time. And you didn't know, but I've been here this whole time. I've been walking this thing with you. And I was just saying, trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me. I've got something good. I've got something good up ahead.
It's a constant struggle to just sit in his sovereignty. And when everything is falling apart in your mind, just to wait.
And there were so many people that got to celebrate with us. I can't even count the number of people who came and said that that they had prayed for us, or that they had waited for this baby with us, or that our story had somehow spoken to them. I don't know. It was just such a special time of seeing, like, this wasn't just about me and Walt and this baby and our birth mother. It was about, like, all these people that God wanted to touch and encourage and bless through this story.
He just doesn't leave anything to chance. It's not random. And it's amazing. It's a miracle, you know? It only speaks of God. People can say, it's just a coincidence, you know? You can't convince me that.
I think God is incredible. I think it's incredible the way that he flung the stars into space. And that same God, the same God who keeps the world from falling apart, he loves me. He loves me. With or without us ever having a child, that's what he's taught me through this. Like, He loves me, and I can be so secure in that love. And to be able to trust that and to rest in that, I mean, it's the greatest gift.
Well, that story is rich with the reality of the goodness of God. We'd like to thank our friends at Moving Works for that wonderful story. You can see even more from them by going to movingworks.org.
Welcome back to the 700 Club for this CBN News Break. It is being called the Miracle in Seat 11A. Vishwas Ramesh is a citizen of the United Kingdom, and he's believed to be the lone survivor of Thursday's Air India plane crash. There are reports of video showing him walking away from the scene. He said after surviving the impact, he unbuckled his seatbelt and escaped the flames and smoke. His younger brother was also on the flight and is still missing. The Boeing 787 was carrying 242 passengers from Ahmedabad to London. It went down shortly after takeoff. Investigators are on the scene. We turn now to Washington, D.C., where the House of Representatives passed a measure cutting $9.4 billion of government spending. The rescission package defunds National Public Radio and the Public Broadcasting Service, giving legislative support to an executive order from President Trump. The bill also makes deep cuts to the U.S. Agency for International Development. 4 Republicans joined every Democrat in voting against the bill, which passed by 2 votes. It now goes to the GOP-controlled Senate. Want to remind you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website. That's cbnnews.com.
Baby Sheen was born with a growth on her heart. Doctors said her condition was a time bomb that could explode at any minute. Here's how you helped to save this little girl's life.
3-year-old Ya could hardly wait to play with her little sister, Cheen. Yet soon after she was born, the Ways found out that there was a growth on Cheen's heart.
A doctor at the hospital said it was very serious. She couldn't get a good supply of blood, and her other organs couldn't develop.
The news was too much for Cheen's mother, and she abandoned the family. Mr. Wei became a single father, while Ya tried to help.
She looked after her like a mother.
Mr. Wei worked hard farming and borrowed from friends and relatives so he could try to get Cheen heart surgery. Then he found a bump on her stomach.
It looked like a bee sting, but it turned into a big pustule and burst. My little girl was curled up and wouldn't respond to me.
It was an abscess caused by the malformation around Cheen's heart.
The doctor said it was like a time bomb that could explode at any time and cause problems in other organs. He suggested I take Cheen home to live her last days.
Mr. Wei prayed.
I remembered the Lord and asked him to help my daughter get surgery so she could live.
Soon a doctor told Mr. Wei about Operation Blessing. Mr. Wei contacted us, and you helped make heart surgery possible for Cheen.
Her eyes are bright now. She's energetic and getting stronger. Now, Cheen and her sister can play together. I have witnessed a miracle. Operation Blessing saved my daughter's life.
What a precious story. You know, here is a dad who hangs in there through this all alone. The mom didn't feel like she could handle it and left, and he's terrified that any day something could go wrong with this child and he would lose her. And then you came in with the great news that there were people who cared enough to make a difference. 700 Club members, you are awesome. That's the kind of work you do every day, all around the world, and right here at home as well. We just want to say thank you. You know, it's only 65 cents a day. That's $20 a month to become a 700 Club member. If you've already done that, good for you, because together we are making a difference. If you haven't done it, today'd be a great day to join. There's always so much need in the world, and while we can't do everything together, we can do much. So we want to ask you to be a part of that. You join by calling our toll-free number. It's 1-800-700-7000. But let me show you the different options you have for membership. That top line is a general membership at $20 a month, or you could join 700 Club Gold. That's a gift of $40 or more a month. Then our 1,000 Club members join us at $84 a month, and the 2,500 Club, that's $2,500 a year, $209 a month. Our founders are $417 or more a month, and that's $5,000 a year. Ask God what He'd have you to do, and then when you call, you'll know right away that you are already reaching out with arms of love and compassion to people in need. If you prefer, you can go to cbn.com and join with us online, or you can also text CBN to 71777. But do it today, because we are touching the world with the love of Jesus. We'd love you to be a part of that.
Well, ever since October 7th and the attack on Israel by Hamas, I've been getting questioned again and again, is this the end of the age? Is this the signs that we've been looking for the return of Jesus? And today, after the strike by Israel against Iran, I thought it would be good to remind you and remind all of us of the scriptures that Jesus spoke to his disciples when they asked him the same question: what will be the sign? What should we be looking for? Well, Jesus responds, it's all in Matthew chapter 24. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. And so we're hearing of wars, we're hearing of rumors of wars, and we're seeing this again and again in today's world. Jesus tells us, see that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. There's more to come. The promise here, and it ought to make us all sober-minded as we look forward to the future. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. We're seeing the beginnings of that with Israel, where the rise of anti-Semitism worldwide is absolutely chilling to me. We're seeing attacks right here in the United States, where there was an attack against a sitting governor in Pennsylvania. There was an attack against people peacefully marching to remind everyone of the hostages. And in those attacks, the attackers were chanting from the river to the sea. And they were then burning people to death or firebombing a governor's mansion. We're seeing the worldwide rise of anti-Semitism. At the same time, this is some of the greatest persecution that the church has seen since the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century. So we're seeing a rise yet again of Christian persecution, and I'm fearful, but also hopeful, because I know Jesus tells us to not worry about this, that this is going to happen, and so we should prepare ourselves for that in the coming days. And here is one of the things we need to guard against. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. So we're seeing lawlessness in our cities. We're seeing our cities burn. We're seeing people say it's fine for cars to burn on our city streets. Let's just watch the display. It's okay for groups of protesters to take over the centers of our cities, to freely raid all our stores. The rise of lawlessness. Make sure your love doesn't get cold because of that you don't retreat back, because now more than ever, we need to preach the gospel. Here's the ultimate sign. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. I woke up this morning and the sun was there. That means it's not today. The sun is still shining. The moon is giving its light. The stars are not falling from heaven. The power of heaven has not been shaken. Because when you see that, well, then look to the heavens, because the sign of the Son of Man will appear, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. So today, the sun came up. Our job as Christians, we're to preach the gospel. We're to finish the Great Commission, because then we can welcome back the King of Kings. Here's a final word from Solomon from Ecclesiastes. Fear God and keep his commandments. for this is the whole duty of man. God bless you. We'll see you again.